Okay, and welcome back, macro econ students. Let's do this. So, we're going to talk today about multipliers when we are determining our fiscal policy measures. And we're going to talk about something called marginal propensity to consume and marginal propensity to save so that we can figure out exactly how much of every dollar of income will be multiplied. Now, I know that sounds scary, right? Marginal propensity to consume and marginal propensity to save. It basically means if I gave you $1, how much would you spend and how much would you save? And if you spend 80 cents of it, I know you saved 20. So it's pretty simple, okay? So don't get frightened by the, fancy economic terminology. Okay? All right, here we go. Effects of government spending. So let's look at if the government spends $5 million, will aggregate demand increase by the same amount? And you know already that, well, I don't know, but you're pretty certain that no, it's not, right? Because people are going to save and spend. So no, aggregate demand will increase even more as spending becomes income for consumers. So consumers will take that money and spend it, thus increasing aggregate demand. So how much will aggregate demand increase? Well, it depends. It depends on how much of the new income consumers save, marginal propensity to save. And if they save a lot, spending and aggregate demand will increase a little bit. Excuse me. Let me say that again. If they save a lot of that money, aggregate demand will increase less. And if they save a little, spending and aggregate demand will increase a lot. Ding, ding. Let me just tell you right now that Congress, during the COVID-19 epidemic or pandemic, is having problems because the economists in that are having trouble because if you fear a recession, and in fact, in my news feed, a lot of people are holding on to cash because when they fear a recession, they don't go spend money. They save it because they're afraid, what if I lose my job? What if this happens? What if that happens? I want money in the bank. And so people save a lot. And so even if you give people money, right, even Obama had the same problem. When you give people money, a lot of the times they either save it, don't spend it, or they use it to pay off a debt. So it doesn't increase aggregate demand at all. Okay, I'm done. Okay, marginal propensity to consume. So let's look at saving and consumption, right? To consume just means how much of that dollar do you spend. So it's always expressed as a decimal or fraction, right? Decimal. And we want to know how much people consume. So our MPC is a change in consumption over a change in income. Okay, so some examples are if you received $100 and spent $20, right? That would be 20 over 100, right? 20 over 100, or 1/5, right? So you spend 20%, right? Your marginal propensity to consume, right? You'd spend 20% of that. Right? If you received 100 and spent 80, right, you're spending 80% or 80 cents of every dollar. And if you received 100 and spent $100, right, you consume the whole thing. Okay? So now we need to look at what is our marginal propensity to save. Well, it's basically the same equation, it's just a different number, right? It's just a different numerator. So your change in savings over your change in income. Why am I giving you both, right? Because if you know your marginal propensity to save, you should know your marginal propensity to consume. Yes, if you've made that connection, congratulations. So if you receive 100 and you save 50, right? You save 50%, you spend 50%, right? If you received $100 and your MPC, your marginal propensity to consume is 0.7, what is your marginal propensity to save? Well, you should on here, right? You should know that, then that would just be, right, 0.3 or 30%. I save 30% of my money and I spend 70% of it. So your marginal propensity to save is 1 minus MPC. Okay, that's the equation. Why is this true? Well, because people can either save or consume. There's nothing else you can do with your money. You can spend it or save it. So how is spending multiplied? Well, there's a lot of math if you go in, because now I need to figure out if I know on average that the marginal propensity to consume is 0.5 for everyone, right? Then you have to start doing some math, because you say, okay, I give Mr. Coach I give him $1. He takes 50 cents, puts it in the bank, takes 50 cents, spends it. So now Bob at the store gets 50 cents from Peter, and now he saves 25 cents and goes and spends 25 cents. So now we need to, okay, he spends 25 cents at Jill's place. So now, right, it just keeps moving and moving and moving, all right? So now we need to figure out, okay, how much would that initial dollar generate over time, right? And I put up some examples right there. And so our equation here is going to be a change in GDP is the multiplier times the initial change in spending, right? So if I know that the multiplier is, let's say we figure out what our multiplier is, and we say our multiplier is 5, and I change the initial change in spending is $1, I know that $1 will eventually, once every last penny of it is, right, spent, saved, spent, saved, spent, saved by different people, it will eventually create $5. There will only be $1 in society, but it will have created or generated $5 worth of goods and services. So how do we calculate that? Okay, you can find your spending multiplier easily. It's either 1 over MPS, so 1 over your marginal propensity to save, or 1 over 1 minus MPC, right? 1 minus MPC, so let's say our MPC is 0.7, right, would equal 0.3. All right, so 1 over 0.3 or 1 over 0.3. They both give you the exact same answer, okay? So if the multiplier is 2, how much will an initial increase of $5 in government spending increase GDP? Well, we're going to say initial times 2 equals $10. How much will an increase of $3 in spending decrease GDP? Okay, so now we need to figure out, okay, well, how much will a decrease of $3 in spending decrease GDP? It works the same way. So if we decrease money, so let's say we decrease this, you could increase this by $10 or you could decrease it by $10, right? Depending on, are you taking money out or are you putting money in? Let's look at some examples. All right, I'm going to give you some examples. So go ahead, pause the video and try to work these out, and then I'll work them out for you, okay? So go ahead and pause the video now. Okay, let's take a look at doing these. Put up another, right? So if the MPC is 0.9, what is our spending multiplier? Okay, so 0.9 is going to give us, right, 1 over 0.10, right? 1 minus 0.9. We know our MPS is 0.1. So, right, our multiplier, right, the same thing is going to be over here, 1 over 0.2. Right, this is going to give us a multiplier of 10. It's going to give us a multiplier of 5. 1 over 0.5, right, this is going to give us a multiplier of 2. Okay, so if the marginal propensity to consume is 0.5 and consumption increased 2 million, how much will GDP increase? Well, you take 2 times 2, and it will increase GDP by $4 million. If MPC is 0 and investment increases 2 million, now I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, well, 2 million times 0 equals 0. It won't increase anything. It was like, well, it won't multiply it by anything, right? Is basically, so it would just increase by $2 million. Okay. If you have questions on how I got these, just contact me, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. All right, I hope that helps. Until next time.